tonight I'm going to talk about the economy. And being a student of economics, I'm not going to come up here tonight and bore you with a lot of formulas, graphs, and charts. I actually finished my last class last night at Mon, and I figured, well, I'm going to try to be a little bit funny now in class, instead of being, sitting there trying to, be really serious. Prof was working away. He was going really mad because it was the last class, and he had to get that last bit of information to us, just to bog us down with the final exam a little bit more. So he was going flat out, and I said, how many conservative economists does it take to change a light bulb? Not expecting him to say anything. He said, none. If you let the government alone, they'll screw it up themselves. Then someone else piped up and said, how can you tell an economist from a befuddled old guy with Alzheimer's? Economists also got the calculator. So economics is not necessarily the funniest thing in the world, but I'm going to briefly go over what I think is wrong with the general picture in Canada. And right now, in 2012, most of us feel prosperous. We got nice cars for the most part. We all live in nice houses. But strangely enough, our real income is not increasing. And that is what I call the I call that the illusion. And the question I'm going to pose to you guys is, well, what's the problem with the economy anyway? Because the economy is all we hear about when we turn on the news. It's the economy. The economy is the biggest thing that you hear about. And the budget was announced last week. So what I'm going to do, or attempt to do, is connect the dots and show you the big picture of the economy in less than 5 minutes. So the first dot. I was going to say that I'm not going to show you any graphs, but I'm going to show you a couple of little graphs. So you got to if you're doing economics, a couple. As you can see, since 1980, the economy has more than doubled. However, unfortunately for us, the middle class, our wages have been flat. So if you account for inflation, our wages are flat, and our purchasing power haven't increased. Second dot. Where did all the money go? Well, we know we don't have it. Almost all the gain went to the super rich. The top 1% of the income earners in Canada used to bring home, before 1980, 10% of national income. Nowadays, the top 1% brings home 40% of national income. Third dot. What does all this money do for these super rich people? Well, I'll tell you what it does. It gives them a lot of political power. Before 1980, the top tax rate, marginal tax rate for the super rich was almost 70%. So on the last dollar they earned, they paid 70 cents to the government. Nowadays, that has been reduced. They negotiated that down with the government, and they now pay less than 38%. And not only that, a lot of their income is capital gains, and that is treated even more favorably by tax law. Fourth dot. Of course, this means huge budget deficits. And if you look at the graph, you can see that once you go below the zero line, everything in the red, well, is in the red. And right now, less than 15% of the total economy is paid to the government in tax revenue, less than 50%. That's the lowest that it's been in 60 years. So in combined income, only 15% is paid back to the government. So public services are cut at all levels. So you think about the roads. You think about the bridges in Newfoundland. You think about search and rescue. You think about cuts to DFO. Everything is being sacrificed. That brings me to the fifth dot. Instead of the middle class uniting and working together, instead we got union against union, public against private, and it's nothing but a mess. 6 dot. Well, what? So we got no money, the government got no money, it's a budget deficit. What did the government do? Well, the bright plan was, over the last few years, to lower interest rates and relax lending standards. We all know what happened. I remember when I first applied for my first mortgage, you had to have a 10% down payment. Maximum amortization period was 25 years. Now you need no down payment. They did have the amortization period up to 40 years, but that's been cut back a little bit. Now you got entry-level couples with entry-level jobs, with small incomes getting mortgages for $500,000, $600,000. So what is the effect of that? And that brings me to the 7th dot. And it seems like we're entering a national housing bubble. What does that mean? Well, it means that the middle class is house poor. Yes, we got nice big houses, but what did we do? We drove up the price of housing. Think about the price of housing in St. John's, how it escalated over the last few years. For example, in Greater Toronto area, the price of a single value home is over $500,000. In Vancouver, it's over $750,000. That brings me to the 8th and final dot. Of course, what are we going to do? What's the government going to do? They're not going to change the tax rates and tax the rich. There's not much more they can cut. We're at bare bones now. So what do? They reduce our entitlements, and now anybody born after 1958 now has to work from the age 65 to 67. Now, of course, we all know this is an illusion by the government that things are well, and it's going to end well. But in the words of the great former MP in Ottawa, Garth Turner, we're all screwed. Thank you very much.